Howdy, folks. It's your old pal David Cobb coming to you on the Green News Network. And with a hat tip and a nod to Gil Scott-Heron, let's remember, the revolution will not be televised, but it will be brought to you over non-corporately sources of news, information, and analysis. And that includes this program, Democracy in Action. Very special guest for us today, Chelsea Lyons, who is coming at us from an automobile. That's how hardcore Chelsea Lyons is. She is literally in a car coming back from the People's Summit, headed back to Flint, Michigan. Chelsea Lyons, welcome to Democracy in Action on the Green News Network.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, and by the way, let's just, so I know that you've got a driver there, so let's put, tell us who's driving you.
Angelo Season from the Wolves Den in Flint. We're leaving Chicago. We've been in the car for hours and hours today, leaving Chicago, going back to Flint.
So, and you know, Angelo and I met Chelsea you through Standing Rock, right? And then I reconnected with you because of Flint, and we're going to talk about both of those things. But before we do, I have the privilege of knowing you as a social change agent. I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to our viewers. So tell us a little bit about Chelsea Lyons and why you do what you do.
Oh, yes. I love this part, bio time. I was a lead organizer for the grassroots Bernie Sanders campaign, and I was a delegate for the Bernie Sanders campaign in Hawaii. And then I realized that basically that system was going to fail us entirely. And from there, about a month later, I went to Standing Rock, and I was there for 5 months. And since then, I've been to 5 or 6 different camps around the country. And now we're in Flint, Michigan, where we just started the new camp. And here we are.
So, you know, one of the things that I have appreciated about you, Chelsea, is that you cut to the chase and you're willing to have honest conversation about difficult things. I, like you, am a revolutionary, right? I don't make any bones about it. Like, we need to restructure this society. We've got to have real talk about white supremacy, imperialism, capitalism, and patriarchy. We can't fool around and tinker at the margins. How am I doing so far?
I mean, you're absolutely right. Everybody is afraid to say what they're actually thinking. There are a lot of people in that room thinking similar things to what I'm thinking, but they're never going to say it because they don't want to upset their peers, or they don't want to upset the establishment that is putting it on. And we're taught to be polite instead of being honest about what is actually happening. And we don't have time for that shit.
So we don't, because we are in an ecological, political, and economic crisis. We are literally experiencing the beginning of full-fledged systems failure, and we don't have time not to have honest conversation. Now, I want to be clear. We have to be courteous, respectful, and kind and loving to each other, but we also have to have we have to say how the cow ate the cabbage. That's how where I'm from, we say, right? We got to actually have honest, hard conversation. So I am going to get back to Standing Rock, but before we do that, I actually want to remind viewers, if you are appreciating this conversation, please share this, comment on it. Let's make sure this blows up so that the Wolves Den can actually get all the attention and credit that it deserves. Chelsea, you and Angelo and a crew of folks from the Wolves Den are coming back from the People's Summit in Chicago. Tell me what the Wolves Den is and why y'all went to Chicago.
The Wolves Den is a water protector camp in Flint, Michigan. It's mostly made up of people from Oceti and people that kind of already knew each other. We have a piece of property in Flint, and we do things like deliver water to people who can't go pick up water. We work on their homes. We try to help them out as much as we can and do the things that they can't do, because many of them are sick from the lead crisis and they don't really have anyone else there to help them do it. So we've been there. Some of us have been there for as long as about 2 months, but the camp itself has only been there for a few weeks. So a few of us went to the People's Summit because obviously the People's Summit is a fantastic networking opportunity. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the best networking opportunity.
Right? So I just wanted folks to understand, Wolves Den, in my estimation, has got all of the hallmarks of being the next Standing Rock. I keep hearing that. I really do believe that. So, Chelsea, I'm going to put you and Angelo and others on the hook I'm going to have you back on this show, right? I'm going to personally go to Flint. I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen. And so I want you, the viewer, to understand. So tell us where folks can go to learn more about Camp Wolves Den.
They can go to our Facebook page, which is at Wolves Den Crew. So you just go look it up, and then it has the links to all of our email addresses, PO box, funding, everything. So, but I wouldn't go as far to say that it's going to be like the next Standing Rock. I don't think there's ever going to be another Standing Rock. It's going to be something awesome, though.
Yeah, it is going to be awesome, and I appreciate you sort of the care that you use, because Standing Rock was clearly a magical moment. I also think, though, that the circumstances that made Standing Rock so magical and so unique are coalescing in Flint and, frankly, at Camp Wolves Den. I visited Camp Wolves Den, and like all of the elements are there. It's just not soup yet, right? But it looks like it's congealing. So
I mean, it's only been a few weeks, and it's doing far better than anyone could have possibly expected. There's been so many fantastic people who have come there. The energy of that camp is amazing, and every single person within that camp is getting up and working every day to support Flint, and that's why it's working. That's why the Wolves Den is becoming successful right now, is because they are actually doing work to help people, and people love that.
So, folks, you're listening to, or you're watching, the Green News Network. I'm your host, David Cobb, on the Democracy in Action. We're speaking to Chelsea Lyons. Chelsea is a journalist with Truth Against the Machine. She is also a frontline water protector who had basically an experience from Bernie Sanders to Standing Rock, now to Flint, Michigan. She is on her way back from basically from Flint to Chicago, back to Flint. So, Chelsea, you were at the People Summit, yes?
Yes.
So I want you to just share with our viewers, what was your experience? And with a hat tip to Clint Eastwood, the good, the bad, the ugly. So let's start with the good. What was the positive? What happened there that you want to share and really lift up and let people know about?
Well, I mean, the people who were there were amazing. The participants who were there were amazing. Many of the people who were there friends, and they were all there. You know, everybody was there for the right reasons, and there was a lot of networking that went on between a lot of fantastic minds, and I think that that's incredible. I wish that it would have been more of a think tank process that allowed those minds to actually impart their own knowledge, but I don't feel like that's really what it was, and I don't think that's what it was ever supposed to be.
You know, one of the constructive critiques I did hear from many folks was that there was not much conversation around strategy. Was that your experience as well?
Yeah, because that's exactly what I was thinking, is that when you have all of these people together, if you're going to get them together, make sure that at the end of it, they left with a plan. Like, this is the time to organize and teach people how to really do something bigger. But instead, they were left with more inspiration, I guess. And maybe they got a few tidbits of help or analysis while they were there, but nobody walked away with like a really revolutionary plan, but yet they called it Beyond the Resistance. If you're going to hold a summit that is basically centered around Democratic Party policies and working within inside a political structure, whether it be third party or Democratic Party, because I know that they bashed the Democratic Party a little bit, and now everybody says, well, it wasn't Democratic Party, but they didn't invite the third party, they didn't invite other parties, but even beyond that, they didn't allow anything outside of the political structure, and that's fine. Hold a political summit with people who are like-minded and want to do that, but then call it that.
So, you know, I really appreciate you getting into that, because first of all, folks, if you want to actually come to a place where we will have deep strategy, as well as invite Greens and Democrats and Socialists and Independents, come to Minneapolis, Minnesota, August 2 through 6 for the Democracy Convention. Chelsea and Angelo, we're going to be doing a session on Camp Wolves Den in Flint. Yeah. So, you know, we want to invite you into that. I will say this, that I completely agree with you, Chelsea, that it is totally appropriate to have a gathering where you say, we are actually committed to taking over the Democratic Party. And so this is a Democratic Party strategy meeting where we're taking over the Democratic Party. That's a totally fair thing to do. Now, I wouldn't go, but the reality is that they were pretending as if this was an inclusive, progressive thing where everything was on the table, but it really wasn't. Right. And so, in fact, Denzel writes in to say regarding the People Summit, so basically they were slapping each other on the back and giving high fives. Is that what you experienced?
Yeah. I mean, it was very entertaining. The workshops were very entertaining and inspirational, but it was a prime opportunity to do something more than just inspire people who wouldn't have applied in the first place if they weren't inspired already. That was a pointless exercise. They didn't need that. They could have done something better. They had an opportunity to do something that most people can't do. Most people don't have the money to put on what they just put on and get all of those people into one place. And that opportunity was wasted. You know, it wasn't wasted because we networked it ourselves, but are we the ones who are supposed to be having to do the work for them? I mean, isn't that what we're here for?
I'll tell you, Chelsea, it's interesting, right? Because again, like, I'm glad that they convened the space. And some people say, oh, well, you just brought together the choir. But I'll tell you this, when the choir comes together, the choir wants to sing. So actually, that's a good idea. But I'm going to really push here, Chelsea. The progressive left choir is out of tune. Like, we need some choir practice, right? And what's really a shame is to convene all of those people and not actually have a conversation around strategy or skills training. Colin writes in to say, Chelsea, talk about the workshops. What was your experience there?
Two points on that is, A, most of the people that I talked to who were like-minded individuals, they didn't even go to the workshops. They said, I didn't come for the workshops, I came for the networking. That's what it was for. The workshops told you a bunch of things for the most part that you already knew. But there are people who should have been here. I know that everybody is upset that the third party wasn't invited, which it wasn't in any way, shape, or form. But there are a lot of people outside of that should have been invited. Like, where is the bank exit movement that did amazing work this year? Why aren't they teaching people at the People Summit how to do that in their cities? That's a huge thing. Why isn't Joy Braun here talking about the work that she's doing in the camp that she started? Why aren't the people who have done amazing work this year teaching people how to do it themselves? Instead, they're teaching them, they're just filling space.
So I do want to say, was there any workshop that you found particularly helpful? Was there any workshop that you were like, what the hell is that all about? I mean, again, I am a believer in constructive critique and self-critique. So and because I want to do better, right? So I'm trying to learn from this. So what, in your experience, was there a workshop that you really want to lift up and say, this workshop on this topic facilitated by this person really needs to be acknowledged? And if there's not one, you can say that too.
I'm not going to say that there wasn't one. I know a lot of people really felt like there was. They felt like they got a lot out of it. And I'm so glad that there are a lot of people who were very satisfied by their experience in the workshops that they went to, and I not so much.
So we've got several questions. So you not so much, and that's totally fair. I got to tell you, you mentioned the lack of the bank exit movement. And by the way, I bank exited because of the movement. So I am a perfect example of that. There's a lot of comments on the thread coming in asking if it's true that there was not anti-war sessions at the summit.
I do not believe that there was anything about anti-war.
So again,
a lot of people were offended by that, and I can see why. It was kind of left off the agenda.
So, so like, again, we're about to, and we're getting a couple of comments about the Wolves Den. So I promise you folks, we're going to switch to that as soon as we finish up here. So in terms of the People Summit, Chelsea, I just want to know, do you have any final thoughts or comments or questions about the People Summit that you wanted to talk about? And I guess, so it is true, we know that both Jill Stein and Ajamu Baraka asked to come and were not allowed to come. It's also true that Shama Sawant was not allowed to come.
Yeah, but if you walk around that building, they all tell you that she had scheduling conflicts, and that's the narrative they've painted for everything. That's the same thing that they said about Tulsi, but like this verifies the fact that this actually happened. She was like she wasn't allowed to come. So, but that's the narrative that they're pushing. Why are there false narratives within this? It's just red flags.
Whoa, 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 whoa. So I can tell you with certainty, I know that Shama Sawant was actually not allowed to come and speak. I know for a fact that Jill and Ajamu were not allowed to come and speak. Are you telling me that Tulsi Gabbard was also not allowed to come?
I've gotten verification from you about the rumor that I heard about Tulsi or about Jill, but the rumor about Tulsi is the same, right? But it's a rumor. I haven't verified that yet. The same narrative that they're pushing for Jill is the narrative they're pushing for Tulsi. Everybody has scheduling conflict.
Had a scheduling conflict. That's not true, right? I reached out to them asking for Jill and Ajamu to be there. So, like, if they're saying there's a scheduling conflict, that's not true. I can debunk that.
I mean, if Jill Stein had actually asked them to do a workshop or to speak at this event, she should have been allowed. She was part of the resistance this year, and if this is a summit of the resistance, how do you not invite those people?
Right. So
Did she not do work this year within the resistance?
Right. I'm with you. So look, I do want to make sure that we switch back to the Wolves Den.
Jill Stein is going to come to the Wolves Den.
That's right, Jill Stein. I'm going to bring Jill to the Wolves Den. You can guarantee that. Just like Jill was at Standing Rock, by the way, right? I mean, like,
exactly. Okay. We're going to get her to spray paint some stuff.
Say that again,
but
Chelsea.
Legally, it'll be legal this time. We're not going to get her arrested. You know, it'll be on private property.
So we're gonna actually have. You know what we need to do is we need to actually have Jill spray paint something, and then let's auction it so that we can actually make some money for the Wolves Den for it.
We should do that. We should totally do that. You talk to Jill about it.
Alicia wants to know, before we go to the Wolves Den, last thing about this one is, was there anything about in the summit about election integrity or about reforming election systems?
Yeah. I mean, they focused very hard on how to reform the political structure.
But election integrity and stolen elections, did they talk about that?
They did not in any way mention that our election was stolen this year in the primary. They didn't mention any of that, which they should have. And that's another thing about these fucking summits that are held by these people. This is like one of the most horrendous things that happened this year. There was actually an election that was proven to be stolen in our country, and they say nothing. They say nothing. He says nothing. None of them say a word about it. We are completely factually aware that there is no fucking democracy, and nobody says a word about it.
Okay, so I'm going to shift gears because, as you know, I'm a revolutionary who engages in electoral politics, and I do direct action. In fact, when I ran for president, Chelsea, I laugh. I ran on my arrest record, right? I've been to jail for justice. I will go back before it's all said and done. There's no doubt about it. And I think that the other thing that I believe in is mutual aid and direct action, right? So Camp Wolves Den is a perfect example of making people's lives better in a tangible, concrete way and doing political education about restructuring society and being willing to engage in electoral politics in an authentic way. So I want to know, or actually Carrie writes in to ask, what does the Wolves Den in Flint really need right now?
Food and water.
So how do people get you food and water to the Wolves Den?
Well, I guess, you'd have to be local to do that. But if you're not local, we do have a wish list that I can post in the comments if you want. And if you go to our Facebook page, there is a supply list. The pinned post has a supply list.
All right, so folks, the pinned post at Camp Wolves Den has a supply list. But Chelsea, I'm going to put it on you and hold you to it. I want you to literally type that into the comments, right? And Michael O'Neill, our technical director, is showing the Facebook page right now. So instead of looking at you or me, they're literally looking at the Facebook page. So tell us where on that Facebook page people can go to find out the needs list for the Wolves Den.
It's the pinned post.
Oh, the pinned post. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So look, I want you.
And we also need people beyond just the five. We need lots and lots of people.
So tell us, because I've had the privilege of actually touring the Wolves Den. So if people come, tell us what they'll experience.
I mean, it's like we have a camp area. We have a camp area with the tents, and then we also do have a house that we are able to utilize. We have, it's kind of like frat style at this point, where everybody's sleeping on the floor and everybody eats together. It's very communal. It's a beautiful place with incredibly good people who are working every day, and you know, everybody's busy and everybody's getting up and doing things every day. So if the people who want to come, they need to be able to work within that, you know.
So in other words, like, again, I've had the privilege of actually going out there, taking a tour. Folks, what I want to let you know is this. Wolves Den is an amazing experience, because what you have is a Flint resident who has the home that they live in, several vacant lots, another home, several more vacant lots, and another home. The Wolves Den participants are involved in doing water delivery systems, because the water in Flint is still poisoned and toxic. And the Camp Wolves Den is also creating relationship and feeding people in Flint on a consistent basis. So the reality is that if you come, and I hope you will, what you'll also be expected to actually do work, right? So Chelsea, I want you to talk about that.
At this point, we have a smaller kind of volunteer crew going. We have about a city block that we're occupying now, but we also have other plots of land that we are planning to occupy in the future, because this is only going to grow, and we are planning on starting a direct process at a state level, not at a city level, because it's not time to attack Flint, it's time to support Flint, and it's the state that's, you know, responsible for all of this.
So again, folks, if you are able to come out for, like, what's the minimum amount of time? If, like, we don't want tourists, right? But if you're willing to come and work, how, like, are you talking about a day? Are you talking about 2 days? Are you talking about a week? What would be an appropriate thing, Chelsea?
I'm not going to say that we don't want tourists. I think that we kind of do. If you want to come for an hour just to check it out, you are welcome to do that. And if you want to come indefinitely and see how long this fight takes, we need that too. We need people who are capable organizers to come down and say, I am willing to, like, dedicate my time to this. I am willing to say I'm in it for Flint for the long haul. Those are the people we need, so that we can start training people properly of how to, like, actually effectively succeed.
Folks, you're watching the Green News Network. This is the Democracy in Action. I'm your host, David Cobb. We're speaking to Chelsea Lyons, who is a journalist with Truth Against the Machine. She is a water protector. She's a straight-up revolutionary, and she is talking to us about Camp Wolves Den, which is a gathering in camp where people are coming together to prove that we can get our needs met, we can restructure society, and we can actually do all this without exploiting or oppressing other people. Chelsea, I want to ask, I have heard rumors that you are in conversation with organized labor and plumbers unions about actually beginning to replace people's contaminated lead pipes in Flint. Is that true?
Are you outing all of my big plans right now?
I'm just saying I've heard rumors.
Yes, there is conversations about doing a mass deployment in the summer of veterans groups and other outside the box organizations that are willing to work together to do something big for Flint in the near future. And one of the ideas that we are discussing is the replacement of the pipes in people's homes, because that's what needs to be done. That's the ultimate goal in Flint, Michigan, is to make sure that all of the pipes are replaced. And if they're not going to do it, we'll do it.
So this is the amazing thing, folks, and because like when I was talking to Chelsea and Angelo and the other people that were on the ground, the strategic thinking about concrete, tangible things and the bigger sort of narrative of restructuring society tripped off their tongues with no problem at all. I just want to say Angel or Angel, I'm not sure which, writes in to say they've got a bunch of great people at the Wolves Den. They're some of the best that they are. Oh, and by the way, Alicia writes back in to ask, can we come in a tiny camper? Chelsea.
Absolutely. I have my tiny camper there right now.
I know you do. I saw it.
Yeah.
So
I think you're totally right, though, is that we're thinking on a different level already. Everyone within that camp already knows what needs to be done. Just like the people in the rooms that were there this weekend, we already know. I don't have to get those people together and convince them or inspire them. I get those people together and we start talking about what to do. And that's what we're doing at the Wolves Den.
And folks, even if the words have not convinced you that Chelsea Lyons and Angelo and the crew that she's worked with are serious and hardcore, I just want to let you know that the face that you're seeing in the background is because there's one of their comrades that was literally sleeping while this interview took place, right? So
yes, I've entirely disrupted these sleeping people back here with.
I mean, that's how hardcore they are. Like, so I just got mad love and respect, Chelsea, for you, Angelo, and whoever is in that car. So Barron writes in to say, I will donate for pipe replacement in Flint. So Barron, talk to Barron, Chelsea.
Thank you, Barron. We appreciate that. We are looking for, we're going to need donors for this. We are going to need donors for this. We estimate that it's going to cost an average of $4,200 per home to be able to replace the pipes. So the funding that we're working on now is going to have to include a coalition of all of these larger groups working together, because we are going to have to pull from every source to be able to get this done.
So I got to tell you, one of the things that has gotten me so excited about Wolves Den and both the philosophy and also the strategic planning is, so it's resistance, but it's also part of the build, right? It's like, in other words, we're not just fighting back. We're literally talking about concretely and tangibly making somebody's life better by participating. And frankly, it reminds me a lot of the Black Panther philosophy of we make people's lives better, and we do political education, and we do authentic electoral politics. We don't make distinctions. We do it all. We do it with integrity, and we do it honestly.
Right. Because, I mean, that is the goal, is to help the people that are there. And if that's what you're really there for, it's naturally going to come to you to do those things.
So, again, I got to say, if folks are interested in Camp Wolves Den, one more time, I want you to give a short appeal, pitch, and invitation.
Okay, appeal, pitch, and invitation. That's adorable. So I think that everybody should come out to the Wolves Den, because Flint, Michigan, for 3 years has had poisoned water, and the government sweeps it under the rug. They have a government that is literally telling them that they can drink the water. They're giving them, it's written in paper, you can drink the water, you can shower in the water. That is like encouraging an entire populace of people to poison themselves.
In other words, they're being lied to by their own government.
Who isn't being lied to by their own government?
Yeah, but not so blatantly, and not where it's going to kill your children.
Exactly. And that is the example of them lying to us in our faces, sweeping under the rug and saying we don't have to do shit about this, because they think we are that small. They think that we have no power. It's time to decide we are the only ones that do have the power to fix this, because they aren't coming. Right.
And so, look to your left, look to your right, because that's who you can actually count on, right? The people who are actually in the trenches with you. So, Chelsea Lyons, I want to thank you so much. I'm going to give you an opportunity for any last thoughts, any questions that I didn't ask, or any last things that you'd like to share with viewers.
No, I've talked way too much already.
All right, well, look, I promise you, you're going to have, folks, you've been listening to Democracy in Action. I'm your host, David Cobb. I want to give a big shout out to Chelsea Lyons and Angelo of Camp Wolves Den. I want to thank very much Melissa Figueroa, Executive Director of the Green News Network, and Technical Director Michael O'Neill for making this magic happen week in and week out. Remember that we also have Voices from the Margin with Ajamu Baraka. We've got the Green Fireside Chat with Jill Stein. We are also going to be bringing Caitlin Johnstone back to this program. We got a lot of love for that. I'm really excited about that. I want to thank you, Chelsea, again for getting involved. Lastly, to the viewer, please comment, share. Remember, the only reason you're hearing this conversation is because thousands of other people are actually looking for it. We can't hate the media. We've got to become the media. Peace.